Welcome students. We have completed the first chapter of standard 10th, that is life process, in the last video. Today I am just going to discuss all the questions given in the NCERT book. I am just going to discuss the answers with you. The questions are some in-text question and some exercise question, chapter end questions. So this is the first set of in-text question. The very first question is here: why is diffusion insufficient to meet the oxygen requirements of multicellular organisms like humans? Students, in this question, you will write down the differences between unicellular and simple organisms and multicellular complex organisms. In unicellular organisms, the entire body, as you know, is made up of a single cell. The cell is in direct contact with atmosphere. It communicates directly with environment. It can receive substances and pass out its substances to the environment directly. Likewise, in lower multicellular organism also, like in Hydra, the number of cell is less. So almost all the cells are in direct contact with atmosphere and they are just taking substances inside their body by the process of simple diffusion. However, in higher organism, in complex organism, in human beings, it is not possible, because first, the body is covered by dead cells. Living cells are not in direct contact with atmosphere, and number of cells is too big, too large, so that the process of the diffusion will be very insufficient and slow, and the requirement will not be fulfilled. So in this way you will describe the answer. In second question, the question is, what criteria do we use to decide whether something is alive? In this question, students, you have to explain about the life process. The first criteria which is used to deciding whether something is alive or not is movement. Maybe movement of organism or movement of parts, body parts, respiratory movement, you can say, movement of different body parts, you can say, then growth pattern. In plants do not show locomotion, their movement of substances, body parts takes place. Stem grows towards sunlight, roots grows towards the gravity. These movements are there to decide something is whether alive or not. Along with movement, you will not only write movement, along with movement, other life processes like nutrition, whether the organism is taking nutrition or not, growth, reproduction, other life processes are equally important to decide whether something is alive or not. In this way, you will write down the answer. The third question: what are outside raw materials used for by an organism? Here you have to write down. It is asking why these materials are used for by an organism. Here you have to write down the process for that these raw materials are required. You will not simply write down these materials are required like CO2 or oxygen or water, but along with that you will also specify for which function these things are required. Like in green plants, CO2, sunlight, water is required from environment for the process of photosynthesis. Likewise, in animals, what substances from environment is taken and for what purpose that is taken. You have to write down that. Fourth question: what process would you consider essential for maintaining life? In this answer, you will write down the name of different life processes. All the life processes are essential for maintaining life. We cannot say that one life process is important and another is not. Okay, so you will write down all the life processes. The next set of question, in text question, the second one: In this set, the first question is, what are the differences between autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition? Students, here you have to write down differences between autotrophic and heterotrophic nutrition. Write it down in columns. Prepare 2 columns, draw a line, and on one side write down autotrophic nutrition, other side heterotrophic nutrition, and differentiate between that. Points you are just knowing: autotrophic nutrition is prepared by themselves, organism prepare their food themselves. In heterotrophic organism do not prepare the food themselves, they take it from somewhere else. In autotrophic nutrition, only raw materials is taken from environment. In heterotrophic, the food is taken from environment. And you will also give the examples of autotrophs and heterotrophs that you know very well. I'm just not going to tell all the answers. I'm just giving you a rough outline of the answer so that you can yourself write down the answers. In the next question, where do plants get each of the raw materials required for photosynthesis? Now you know the raw materials of photosynthesis, carbon dioxide and so you have to write down the name of raw materials and from where the plants are getting it, and what organ or part of plant is responsible for absorbing or taking it inside the body. Like CO2 is taken from environment, and which part of plant is doing that process? Stomata present in leaves. Likewise, you will write down there are 4 raw materials. You will write down name of all the 4 raw materials. What raw materials are taken from environment, you will write down which component of biosphere, from air, soil, water, where, and which part of plant is taking it. You will write down that. Third question is, what is the role of acid in our stomach? Role of acid in our stomach. Which acid is secreted inside our stomach? Hydrochloric acid, HCl. What is its function? There is an enzyme which can work only in acidic medium. That enzyme is found in inactive form. The acid converts it into active form. You have to write down the name. The inactive form is converted into active form of that enzyme. Second, it makes the food acidic so that that enzyme can work on it. It also kills germs present in the food. These are the functions. You have to write down point wise. Next is, how is the small intestine designed to absorb digested food? The small intestine has a special structure in its inner wall which is specifically designed for absorption of food. That structure, remember that structure, what is its name? Its name, you have to write down the name of that structure and how it maximizes the surface area and it speeds up the absorption process, that you have to write down. So just find out what is the name of that structure which is found in the inner wall of a small intestine and just explain how it is increasing the surface area and how the food is getting absorbed fastly. This is the special structure which is designed to maximize the absorption of food. So these are the next 5 in-text questions, set of next 5 in-text questions. Next is the next set of question. The first question here is, what advantage over an aquatic organism does a terrestrial organism have with regard to obtaining oxygen for respiration? Here we have to differentiate in terrestrial organism and aquatic organism on the basis of dissolved oxygen present in air and in water. Students, as we know, amount of oxygen dissolved in air is much greater than it is in water. In air, about 21% is oxygen present, whereas in water, about 1% oxygen is present in the dissolved form. Obviously, organism taking air taking oxygen from air gets more amount of oxygen with each breath, whereas organism which are taking oxygen dissolved in water are taking much less amount of oxygen with each breath. So this is the advantage which a terrestrial organism is having. You can say here the terrestrial organism have a slow rate of respiration, slow breathing rate as compared to aquatic organism. They need to breathe faster. The breathing rate is faster over there to take up the same amount of oxygen which is terrestrial organism is taking during one breath. So the rate of respiration varies according to the terrestrial or aquatic form. Here you will explain this thing, that terrestrial organism breathe with a slow rate as compared to aquatic organism because amount of oxygen dissolved in water is less as compared to that in air. The second question, what are the different ways in which glucose is oxidized to provide energy in various organisms? We have studied about different types of respiration. Just consider here, glucose is oxidized. Oxidation of glucose means respiration. In this question, it is asking what are the different ways of respiration. Actually, you have to write down over here. Glucose is oxidized in three ways. Basically two ways. In presence of oxygen, that is aerobic, and in absence of oxygen, that is anaerobic. Further, anaerobic is divided in two types, in complete absence of oxygen and in lack of oxygen. We have discussed in that respiration part. So there are three ways of glucose oxidation, that is respiration. First, in presence of oxygen, it takes place inside which part of cell? You will write down in cytoplasm and in mitochondria, and what are the byproducts over there. Second, in absence of oxygen, it takes part in which part of cell? That is, complete process takes place in cytoplasm. You will mention it. And what are the byproducts over there? And in lack of oxygen, and what are byproducts? Also, you will give examples. Organisms which are respirating aerobically, which are respirating anaerobically, and the places where in lack of oxygen respiration takes place. So you have to write it down. In complete, you will describe all the three pathways of respiration or glucose oxidation. Next question is, how is oxygen and carbon dioxide transported in human beings? Here you have to write about oxygen transport and carbon dioxide transport. As we have discussed, oxygen is basically transported with the help of a pigment, respiratory pigment. Can you recall the name of that respiratory pigment? That red colored respiratory pigment which is present in blood, and hence the color of blood is red. I have given you enough hint. Basically, oxygen mainly gets transported with the help of that respiratory pigment. You have to write down the name and you will tell that oxygen combines with that and gets transported in the entire body with the help of that respiratory pigment. What about carbon dioxide? Carbon dioxide dissolves in plasma, and in the dissolved state in plasma it gets transported, distributed. Carbon dioxide in form of carbon dioxide itself and with sodium bicarbonate, different bicarbonates present in blood. It gets transported. Basically, oxygen is transported along with the respiratory pigment. You will name that respiratory pigment. And CO2 is transported in dissolved form in plasma. The next question is, how are lungs designed in human beings to maximize the area for exchange of gases? Now just recall the structure of lungs we have studied. The primary bronchi divides into secondary, then in tertiary, and then in very fine bronchioles, which finally ends up in alveoli. Alveoli are sac-like structures. Numerous alveoli are present inside the lungs. These are sac-like structures with a very thin wall, and within the wall of alveoli and wall of lungs, the exchange of gases takes place. Alveoli are the structure which help in exchange of gases. The lungs have special sac-like structure, numerous special sac-like structure called alveoli, which increases the surface area, and having very thin wall allows gases to exchange. The next set of question. Here the first question, what are the components of the transport system in human beings? What are the functions of these components? Now we know that in human beings the transport system has two parts, blood vascular system and lymphatic system. Here it is asking all together, so you have to write down about both the systems. First, blood vascular system, then name its components. It has three components: blood, blood vessels and heart. Blood, you will write down the name. You also have to mention the functions of the components. So blood, functions of blood. Then blood vessels, it is again of three types: artery, its function; veins, its function; capillaries, its function; and then heart, its function. Just in one line you can write it down, like blood transports substances in dissolved form. It also carries oxygen. Artery carry oxygenated blood. Vein carry deoxygenated blood. You can also write down the direction from organs to heart. Then capillaries, then function of heart, it is a pumping organ. Then you will mention the second component of blood, that is circulatory system, the lymphatic system, then its components. These are lymph, its function, then lymph vessels, its functions, and lymph nodes, its functions. So you will write down answer in two parts. You will write down in such a way that human circulatory system has two parts: blood vascular system and lymphatic system. Now the components of blood vascular system are blood, heart, artery, veins, capillaries with its function. Then components of lymphatic system are lymph, its function; lymph nodes, its functions; and lymph vessels, its function. The second question is, why is it necessary to separate oxygenated and deoxygenated blood in mammals and birds? Students, we have discussed mammals and birds are warm-blooded organisms, means they have a fixed body temperature. To maintain the body temperature, they need extra energy. To regulate that body temperature, to maintain that body temperature, they need extra energy. And to provide that extra energy, it is necessary to separate oxygenated and deoxygenated blood for efficient supply of oxygen, continuous supply of oxygen, so that they can fulfill the requirement of extra energy which is used up for maintaining their body temperature. So that's why in mammals and birds it is very necessary. And for that, what mechanism is there, students? Can you tell? Four-chambered heart are present. Heart has four chambers in mammals and birds to keep the blood separated, oxygenated blood apart from deoxygenated blood. In this way, birds and mammals keep the blood separated to take up maximum amount of energy. Next question is, what are the components of transport system in highly organized plants? In highly organized plants, the components of transport system are xylem and phloem. You have to explain about those. You will write down about number of type of cells present in xylem, how many of them are dead, how many of them are living, and how many of them are actually responsible in water transport, and what is the function of others. Everything is they are taught to you. There are four types of cells. Which cell is responsible for water transport, which is responsible for providing a strength, which is responsible for storing food for the system. You have to write down there. Likewise, you will tell about phloem. Again, there are 4 cells are there. You will name them. You will tell which one is living, which one is dead, and what cells are actually responsible for food transport. The water is transported in which direction, the food is transported in which direction. You have to specify everything over here. How are water and mineral transported in plants? Actually, it is an extension of question number 3. You will here elaborate the functions of xylem. Again, you will write down about xylem, number of cells present in that, and what cells are responsible for actual water transport, what is for providing a strength to the system, what is for getting the system in a standing mode. You have to explain over here. And also about the direction of movement of water. Water movement is always unidirectional, students. So you will write it down. The last question, how is food transported in plants? Likewise, as in question number 4, you have discussed about xylem. In question number 5, you will discuss about phloem. Name of all the components. Which cell is actually responsible for food transport, what is the function of other cells. Also here, the process of food transport in plant is given a special term. You will give that term also. The process of transfer of food or transport of food in plants is called what? You will also name that term over here. Question. Describe the structure and function of nephrons. Here you have simply to draw the diagram of nephron and you will explain its function, how blood enters, what happens inside that, and how it leaves out. Blood how leaves out the nephron and what happens to the waste material collected over there. So you will simply explain that and you will draw the diagram. Next question. What are the methods used by plants to get rid of excretory products? Here in points, you will explain what happens with the excretory products present in plants. So plants, as we know, don't have any specific excretory system or excretory organ. They store their waste materials in their parts, and with a regular interval, those plants shed off. In some cases, plants store their waste products in their leaves, sometime in bark of the trees, in old xylem. In some cases, it is in form of some milky secretions. We have all discussed it. In point wise, you will write down. Also, you will explain that some plants diffuse their waste products in the root around, in the soil around. Aquatic organism excrete by the process of diffusion. In some plants, it is stored in form of raphates. Likewise, you will explain over there in this question. The last question of this group is, how is the amount of urine produced regulated? Here, you will tell that amount of urine produced is regulated by the process of filtration and reabsorption. If amount of water is more in blood, the blood volume increases. The increased blood volume creates more pressure and hence more water along with waste material is filtered out. In that case, amount of urine is more than the normal. If amount of blood is less, if amount of water is less in blood, then the blood volume is less and hence it exerts less pressure and hence less amount of water is filtered out as waste material. Urine becomes concentrated. In this way, also by the process of reabsorption, if more amount of water is filtered out, then by the process of reabsorption, it is reabsorbed back inside the body. Hormones, ADH hormone, vasopressin hormone also play an important role in that. You will explain in this way only. Students, now this is the chapter end question, the exercise questions. The very first 4 questions are objective type. So I'm just not going to discuss it. You can do it yourself only. 1 to 4 questions are objective. You will do it yourself. Question number 5 is, how are fats digested in our bodies? Where does this process takes place? Here you will explain about fat digestion. You will tell the role of first bile. Bile emulsifies the fat, that is, breaks down the larger fat globules into smaller one. Then the enzyme lipase acts on it. You will explain that. This process, the entire process takes place in the small intestine itself. You will explain it in this way. The next question is, what is the role of saliva in digestion? Saliva is produced in mouth, in buccal cavity by salivary glands. It first of all makes the food watery. It helps in chewing and mixing of food so that food can be converted as paste. Also, it contains an enzyme. You can name that enzyme, you will name it. And that enzyme helps in digestion of a particular component of food in mouth itself. You will mention about that. What are the necessary conditions for autotrophic nutrition and what are its byproducts? Here you will write down the necessary conditions, means the requirements. What are the requirements of autotrophic mode of nutrition? You will name them. You know that very well: CO2, water, sunlight and chlorophyll. And also what are its byproducts? You will write down the byproducts of photosynthesis. What are the byproducts? I will suggest you, after writing, just you write down the equation of the photosynthesis, the entire equation of the photosynthesis. Also there mention the requirements and products and byproducts. In the next question, what are the differences between aerobic and anaerobic respiration? Name some organisms that use the anaerobic mode of nutrition. Here you will write down in columns. Make separate columns: aerobic respiration, anaerobic respiration, and you will differentiate both. On the basis of what? First, presence or absence of oxygen. Now you decide in which column you have to write what. Aerobic respiration requires oxygen or not? Anaerobic. Presence or absence of oxygen. Second, amount of energy produced. In which type of respiration more amount of energy is produced and where less. You write down that. Also you will write down on the basis of byproducts. What type of byproduct is formed in which case. Then you will differentiate on the basis of places where it takes place. Whether the entire process is taking place in cytoplasm or some other organelle is involved over there, you will write it down over. Again, then you will write down whether complete combustion takes place or not. In which form complete combustion is there, in which incomplete combustion is there. In those criteria, you will differentiate between aerobic and anaerobic. Then you have to name some anaerobically respirating organism. You know the name very well. Lower organisms, yeasts are there, bacteria are there. You will write down the some name of organisms which are respirating anaerobically. Next question: how are the alveoli designed to maximize the exchange of gases? Such type of questions we have discussed in the in-text segment. Alveoli have a special structure, sac-like structure. They are numerous in amount and they have very thin wall. All these things make the exchange of gases possible. The numerous amount, the large sized sac-like structure and very thin wall. These are the special structures which help the alveoli to maximize the exchange of gases. The next question is, what would be the consequences of deficiency of hemoglobin in our bodies? As we know, the functions of hemoglobin combines oxygen and carries it, transport it to various places. If there would be lack of deficiency of hemoglobin, then the oxygen carrying capacity will be reduced and hence the organism, the human being will not feel energetic, they will be pale and less energetic, amount of oxygen will be less in the body. That condition of less amount of hemoglobin in the body is called anemia, and the patient suffering from anemia is not properly getting the energy required. The next question, describe double circulation of blood in human beings. Why is it necessary? Double circulation, as you remember, blood enters twice in the heart during one circuit. During one complete flow, blood enters twice in the heart. First, deoxygenated blood enters in the right atrium, and after being oxygenated in lungs, it again enters in the left atrium. This is called double circulation. You will explain it. And why it is necessary? We have discussed it several times. It is necessary to provide more energy to higher organisms. As mammals and birds are warm-blooded organisms, they need more amount of energy, and that's why the separation of deoxygenated and oxygenated blood is required, and for that there are two different entry points for deoxygenated and oxygenated blood. Next question, what are the differences between the transport of materials in xylem and phloem? Here you will form two columns. In one you will write down transport of material in xylem, and in second you will write down transport of material in phloem. You will mention what materials are transported in xylem, water and mineral, and what are transported in phloem, food obviously. In xylem, the direction of movement is unidirectional, whereas in phloem it is multidirectional. Likewise, in xylem, out of 4, 3 cells are dead. In phloem, out of 4, 3 cells are living. So these are the differences in xylem and phloem, and its transport. You will write down differences, basically you have to write down over here. And the last question, compare the functioning of alveoli in the lungs and nephrons in the kidneys with respect to their structure and functioning. Again, you have to form columns and you have to differentiate between alveoli of lungs and nephrons of kidneys. Both of these are actually extensions. In alveoli, in lungs, bronchus divides and divides and divides and finally forms alveoli, whereas in kidneys, nephrons are the functional unit. So you will write alveoli are the structure and functional units of lungs and nephrons are of kidneys. You will write about the structure. Alveoli is sac-like structure, whereas nephron is a combination of cup and tubular structure. Alveoli is responsible for exchange of gases, whereas nephron is responsible for filtration of waste materials. So in this way, you have to differentiate between alveoli and nephrons. Thank you, students.